But let's continue then to get reaction on this particular story. As we've said, more than 133 people have been killed and more than 100 others were injured following a brazen attack on concertgoers at Moscow's Crocus City Hall before a performance by a Soviet-era rock band on Friday. We will confirm those numbers. ISIL's Afghan branch, also known as the Islamic State in Khorasan Province, has claimed responsibility for the attack. So why is ISIL targeting Russia? To unpack this, we are now joined by security analyst and consultant Andy Grudko. Andy, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. So we do understand that this particular group has a violent reputation, as we hear. So let's get an understanding then about who is this ISIL-K group and why would they wage an attack on Russia?
Yeah, good afternoon, and good afternoon to your viewers. Well, it's a very interesting dynamic. The whole of the Russian political scene for at least 200 years has been plagued by various types of terrorism. My initial reaction when I heard this was that it was perhaps linked to the Chechens. You may recall that the Chechens have been involved in terrorist attacks throughout Russia since about 2008. The Chechens are a northern Caucasus Muslim-based group who have been proven throughout Europe to have ties with ISIS. And that is where I initially thought that the attacks are coming from. The group which your previous correspondent spoke of are not known to me, I must be honest.
And I mean, the reason these concerns are coming up is because this ISIL-K group is really affiliated with other countries very far removed, from Russia itself, which is probably why, President, Putin himself has not mentioned ISIL-K as the responsible group, even though they have, of course, come out to claim responsibility. He instead is focusing his attention on Ukraine. What are some of the possibilities that investigators at this point are looking at?
Well, as I say, I'm not particularly familiar with the ISIL-K group. They are a relatively new group. There are many offshoots from ISIS, some of whom are very closely affiliated and some are not closely affiliated. As I say, Russia's had a terrorism problem, and the Soviet Union before it, for a good 200 years. And their intelligence infrastructure is very good. That's not to say that I necessarily believe anything that President Putin has to say about the current situation. As you know, he was a KGB colonel and was a master at disinformation and political manipulation. So it's unlikely that even if he did know about ISIL-K, that he would project blame onto them at the moment. We've seen that he's already been intimating that the 4 people who have been captured allegedly so far have got ties to the Ukraine without any substance coming forward on that, which would be quite typical of the kind of, let's call it misinformation at this stage, but maybe it's not, that I would expect him to put forward. It's early days, so I would say we've got to see what events unroll over the next couple of days. ISIS themselves, incidentally, are not a very reliable source of information. They will manipulate incidents to their political advantage, taking credit for attacks in the past which have not been ISIS related, but where it was what they consider to be a success, they've taken claim for it.
Now, it is, of course, interesting because, our correspondent, Dasha, also saying that there are more questions than answers. But what is also of concern is that prior to this particular incident, the U.S. had sent out notice to its citizens, warning of an imminent terrorist attack. So one would then imagine, should that intelligence come out, that the security would have been much tighter than what we are seeing, specifically because Russia is also in a war with Ukraine.
Well, yes, but of course we must bear in mind that Putin wants to be seen as being a strongman. That's one of his key selling points. And to have an attack like this take place on his ground is very unsettling. For the Americans to have predicted that something was coming in the next few days looks very bad for Putin. Now, the US State Department did issue a warning as far back as about 2 weeks ago to American citizens to be careful, to avoid public places. And generally, the American intelligence on matters like this is very hot. So once again, I think there will be, over the next few days, a lot of misinformation coming out. And one would need to interrogate multiple sources to be able to actually get down into the root of what happened. But it will come out. It'll probably take us a week or two.
All right, Andy, thank you so much for your time and, of course, just weighing in on this particular incident. Of course, as we earlier said, more questions rather than answers. Of course, that was security analyst and consultant Andy Grudko there.